Okay, we're on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're recording now.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Oh, I'm Richard.
This is Loki.
Stupid cat.
He's just gonna be living his best life right now.
Yeah. Cthulhu, get up here on the bed.
That's Cthulhu. Amity's behind you.
Yeah, we're
actually doing an episode.
Yeah, we're going to do an episode today.
Oh my god, we're not.
There's going to be some real facts. Then there's going to be some
questionable,
some speculation, but reasonable speculation. If you check out the show notes, this episode comes with JPEG files.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you take pictures?
Yeah, I had. That was the only way I could get the. I actually they're pictures from my phone of Polaroids that I took, but they're all relevant to the story. And one of them, well, two of them actually.
Oh, hey.
I didn't know till today actually support my theory even stronger.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, this is
Google image search.
This is Charlie Manson's fanny pack.
Yeah. Charlie Manson's fanny pack. Or as the Google AI or Microsoft Bing AI thinks, CMFP means.
Stoner's Point.
No, not what. So, I looked up like the Google AI search. So actually, it's the Bing AI search.
Yeah.
And I typed in Stoner's Point. And it didn't mention Mike at all. But it mentioned me and Jessica and Storm. And then
it's just more relevant.
Yeah, and then it said the CMFP, which stands for Charles Manson's fanny pack. It said that it stood for Charles Manson's fucking podcast, which I actually really like that as well. So Charlie Manson's fucking fanny pack podcast. And today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. We're going to be talking about we're talking about one unsolved string of serial murders.
Yes.
Then talking about several unsolved string of serial murders in one place.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about who I actually think is responsible for both.
It's just how it ties into your real life.
Yeah.
Is very, and that's where this whole premise comes from. That this is something that hits very close to home for you.
Yeah, it does. I have a personal connection, and most of this I've been researching this shit since 2011. Actually, I've been looking into it. So today we are talking about KlanPa.
So let's unpack that. Who is
KlanPa? Charles Sanford Denton is my mother's step and then adopted father. Okay. He adopted her. I think the adoption became official when she was like 13, right? Okay. Yeah.
But we need to unpack the whole KlanPa bit too.
He grew up in Johnson County, North Carolina. He was the son of a tobacco farmer. Actually, he was the great-grandson of a tobacco plantation owner. Right? But, or great something. Nephew, grandson. I'm not exactly sure how it works in.
But two removed from...
Yeah, from slavery.
Yeah.
During the 1920s, early 30s Prohibition, KlanPa, my grandfather's father's tobacco farm was kind of floundering, right? There was the Depression and all. So what happened was there was this famous moonshiner from the area called Percy Flowers, right? And Percy Flowers was known for, and this happened to my grandfather's family, going to failing farmers, buying out their debt, basically, and saying, you got this creek here, you're going to put a still on.
He was like mob-esque?
Kind of, but he was cool as fuck. Like, Percy Flowers, they were trying to pass some sort of new taxes on farmers or something.
Okay.
And Percy Flowers took like 15 people on tractors, drove into downtown Smithfield, up the fucking courthouse steps, and blocked all the entrances to the courthouse. Percy Flowers.
Have some gangster shit.
Percy Flowers was pretty fucking dope.
Again.
Yeah, and now there's actually a gas station named after him that has like the best fucking hot dogs in the world.
Where? Okay.
Down by KlanPa's. Down where I grew up. You want to go eat? You want to go eat fucking Almost Famous hot dogs from Percy Flowers?
I don't think I'd be okay down there.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not like that anymore.
Well, I mean, my mom lives in Dunn, so I mean...
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Yeah.
Dunn's more of a racist place than that place now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's... And because of the time and everything, where they were and their connection to the South and farming and slavery, my great-grandfather was in the Klan. I've actually seen photographs of KlanPa and great-grandpa at a lynching. So
Jesus Christ.
I don't have those pictures. My grandmother does, and we don't really talk really. But
Featuring Loki chonkin.
yeah, Jesus, Loki, could you actually not eat next to the microphone?
Just crunch, 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 crunch. Go get your food, chonk.
Yeah, you fat fuck.
I love you. Yeah.
Obesius the Wide.
He's not. He is not. He's a solid boy.
God damn, I can barely pick him up. Ugh. All right.
He is also a long boy, but he's a thick boy. He's not like Jira, who is just long and long.
But yeah, so Grandpa was born in, I want to say 33 or 34.
Wow.
On Christmas Eve.
Wow, that's not June or July.
I know. He died in July of 2012.
Okay.
So yeah. What was I going to say next? Oh, right. He had a little sister and also a little brother. The little sister died mysteriously, but not so much mysteriously. Nobody in the family would ever tell me why Janie died. Nobody wanted to talk about it.
Okay.
But Grandpa would have been like 8 or 9, and she was like between 3 and 5.
Okay.
And she died. And actually the whole family's like buried right beside each other. But,
wow.
Yeah. He had another brother, Carl. Carl actually died just a few years ago. Outlived Charles by like almost 6 years.
Okay.
He went to Korea. Charles, not Carl. And then he came back. Right? He got married. There was a daughter. They got divorced. Daughter went with mom. Yeah. Don't really know. KlanPa always said that when I dug into about it, like, you know, what happened with you? And I think her name was Margaret or Peggy. Peggy sounds right.
Feels right.
Peggy feels right. Yeah, whenever I'd ask him about it, he would just kind of clam up and just be like, basically, you know, bitches be tripping and you can't trust these hoes. You know, those weren't his exact words, but that was basically the gist of what he was saying.
You're not gonna remember word for word. It's been
not all of it, no. So, and because my mother like kind of ran off, you know, when I was 2, there was an arrangement made between KlanPa and my grandmother and my dad and my stepmother, where every other weekend, from Friday till 6 o'clock on Sunday, they had visitation. They would come and pick me up, and I'd go over and spend the weekend at KlanPa's house. Okay. As a child, this was actually a paradise for me, a refuge. I could go. I wasn't allowed to watch TV at home. Me and Granny would watch movies. Grandpa too. That actually was a little bit problematic. Some of the movies I watched with KlanPa,
Oh goodness.
First time I saw Caligula, the Penthouse production of Caligula, I was like 7 years old, and KlanPa was watching it. He wasn't. It is made by Penthouse. It is kind of pornish. He wasn't jerking or anything. That's not something you watch with a 7-year-old, right?
No.
He would keep his Hustler magazines just chilling in the main bathroom. So I started like getting into those when I was like 5. And Hustler, that's wide open. There ain't no secrets on Hustler.
No.
So yeah, he was problematic at least, and he was always racist. But you gotta understand where I grew up. Racism was everywhere. Everyone was racist. Everyone I knew was racist.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we're talking Smithfield,
right,
Johnson County.
And everyone I knew also went to church, right?
Yeah.
And KlanPa would take me to these, what I thought were church functions. And we'd be like, for the longest time, there'd be barbecue and like praying. And a lot of these people I recognized from the church up there at Corinth Older. And, and then there'd be a fire, a big burning cross, when the sun went down. I didn't think anything of this until I was in like 7th grade and we're doing like history class. And I seen a picture of a burning cross and a Klansman. And I was like, hold up.
So because you hadn't been exposed to like the knowledge of it,
I just thought it was church people.
Normal.
I just thought it was fucking normal church shit. And then I started asking questions.
Like I need to know what's going on.
But come to find out, he had actually left the KlanPa left the Klan shortly after his mother died. Which was in like 67, 68.
Okay. But that doesn't mean that it's not.
Right. And he was actually still a part of the Klan until, I think it was like 3 or 4 years afterwards, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason he left was because when his mother died, he lost his faith in Jesus and whatnot. He stopped believing in God. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things about the Klan. Yeah. You got to be white and you got to be Protestant. You can't be a Catholic. They ain't having no mackerel snappers in the Klan, goddammit. God. This is the Protestant Jesus white man's Klan.
Goodness.
Right? Yeah, so I mean it was normal for me, right? There was nothing really bad about him, In fact, like I said, I preferred to go over there. He was always, I felt honest with me. I felt like he knew everything. He was always funny.
That's what you were saying earlier. He was
a funny fucking guy. And yeah, he was the grandfather that every grandson wants, right?
Okay.
I didn't really know there was anything up for a long time. Well, he used to be after he came back from Korea and whatnot, he did a little bit of knocking around, and he started driving trucks.
And so this is where this kind of gets into the
other shit.
This other.
Alrighty. Yeah. And I'll get into it later. I actually asked him about some of this stuff before he died. And you can ask Kira. You can ask Storm's mom about it. She was there when I asked him.
Yeah, I'll have to.
So the Freeway Phantom
is our lovely topic today.
One of them. The Freeway Phantom, according to Wikipedia, is the pseudonym of an unidentified serial killer who murdered 5 girls and a woman in Washington, D.C. between April 1971 and September 1972.
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. So in the mid to late 60s, he started working for the sign company, right? And Highway 295 was being built. And, it had just been built. And Highway 295 is what's now 95, Interstate 95 that goes up through Washington all the way,
Okay.
And so billboards and electric signs were a thing now, right? And they're being built along the side of the highway. KlanPa worked for the sign truck delivering and installing these signs all up and down the I-295 corridor.
Okay.
You know, from like the northern half of Virginia all the way in through D.C., up in Baltimore, past, you know, on up. I think he went up as far as Jersey.
Jersey.
And I guess another thing I bring up, these particular victims, these 5 victims, were different than the other 5. Oh, not the other 5, but the other victims we'll talk about later. In one regard, what do they all have in common, my dear?
They are all black.
Every one of them. Now, I can tell you something about KlanPa that will help you understand this from my perspective a little bit, right? He always would say that black people weren't actually people, right? Whatever you did to them, they weren't the same as doing it to a white person. You know, having sex with one of them was kind of about the equivalent of fucking a donkey, right?
Yeah.
That's how he looked at race and whatnot at the time. And during this time, you know, he was married.
Yeah.
Right? He had just gotten married to my grandmother, which would be his second wife.
His first wife pass away, or
they were divorced. Like that was the one I was talking about, where he never really gave me any details.
Okay.
You know, bitches be tripping, and you can't trust these hoes. that was all he pretty much ever would say on the matter. So these from April 1971. Where's the goddamn thing? Yeah. Let's see. April 25th, 1971, 13-year-old Carol Denise Spinks was sent by a older sister to buy groceries at a 7-Eleven, located a half mile from her home, just across the border into Maryland. On her way home from the store, she was abducted. Her body was found 6 days later at 2:46 p.m. behind St. Elizabeth's Hospital on a grassy embankment next to the northbound lanes of I-295 and about 1,500 feet south of the parkway.
Okay.
Examination revealed she had been both physically and sexually assaulted and strangled, but was dressed but missing her shoes and only been killed a couple days previously.
So she was held.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was kidnapped.
On July 8th, 1971, Darlena Denise Johnson, 16, from Congress Heights, was abducted while en route to her summer job at Oxon Hill Recreation Center. One witness reported having seen Johnson in an old black car driven by an African-American male shortly before her abduction. 11 days later, her body was located only 15 feet from where Spinks had been found, even though police had been notified of the body nearly a week earlier by an anonymous caller who had details only her killer could have known.
So the police literally just disregarded her.
Yeah. No human involved. By that time, Johnson's body, again dressed but without her shoes, was far too decomposed to determine the cause of death or if she had been sexually assaulted. But law enforcement was able to find evidence of strangulation. Meanwhile, he comes home occasionally.
Okay.
KlanPa would come home from D.C. and he would molest the daughters of his stepdaughters.
Yeah.
My mother at this time actually was living with her grandmother in Texas.
Okay.
Texas, yeah. I don't know why I was fucked up there, but yeah, she was living with her in Texas. She had been living with her in Indiana, but then great-grandma Hazel moved down to Texas and took my mom with her. So yeah, she's still a teenager or whatnot. Not even a teenager. My mom's still a preteen at this point. Grandpa hasn't even met her.
Okay.
Right? So he's coming home, molesting these girls, getting drunk, cheating on his wife. These are all from a little bit later. But, yeah. These two are from, I believe, the late 70s, early 80s. KlanPa.
He has Charlie Manson's face.
Yeah, he's got some serious BTK vibes, right?
Yeah.
People would always talk about it. He had these piercing blue eyes.
It was like, say with Charlie Manson, he just stares into your soul.
Yeah.
He's trying to eat it.
On July 27th, 1971.
I'm okay. Okay.
10-year-old Brenda Faye Crockett, near that, 10 years old, from the Northwest, failed to return home after being sent to the store by her mother. 2 hours later, the Crockett's phone rang and was answered by her 7-year-old sister who had waited at home while her family was searching the neighborhood. Crockett was on the other line crying. "A white man picked me up and I'm headed home in a cab." Crockett told her sister that she believed she was in Virginia before abruptly saying bye and hanging up. A little bit later, the phone rang again, and this time was answered by the stepfather of Crockett. It was her again, and she merely repeated what she said the last phone call, adding, "Did my mother see me?" and indicating she was alone in a house with a white male. Her stepfather asked her to have the man come to the phone. Heavy footsteps were heard in the background, and Crockett said, "I'll see you," and hung up. The next day, a hitchhiker discovered Crockett's shoeless body in a conspicuous location on U.S. Route 50 near the Baltimore-Washington Parkway in Prince George's County, Maryland. She had been raped and strangled, and a scarf was knotted around her neck.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. It doesn't get better. 12-year-old
Nadine?
Nina Mashia? Yeah, Nina Mashia Yates was walking home around 7 p.m. from a Safeway on October 1st, 1971, when she was kidnapped, raped, and strangled. Her body was found within 3 hours of her abduction.
Oh, wow. They're actually on it now.
Just off the shoulder of Pennsylvania Avenue in Prince George's County, Maryland. As with the other cases, her shoes were missing and unidentified green fibers would also be found on her clothing. A witness apparently saw her get into a blue Volkswagen, and although investigated, the lead led nowhere. God, it doesn't show up as green in this.
What?
That's a green carpet.
Oh, wow.
Old, faded green carpet.
Like that avocado?
It was kind of, yeah. But it was also old as shit. That was Grandpa's living room.
Okay. Been walked on, dirty.
Yeah. It was a green carpet, though. You can see it in some of my other pictures I have from that time. But green carpet. A witness apparently saw her getting into a blue Volkswagen, and all investigated. The lead led nowhere, probably because it wasn't true. It was after this murder that the Freeway Phantom moniker was first used in the Daily News article describing the murders. So, yeah. And it goes on. Brenda Woodward, after dinner with her classmate on November 15th, 1971, she was 18 years old, from Baltimore, boarded a city bus around 11:30 p.m. to return to her Maryland Avenue home. 6 hours later, police discovered her body, which had been stabbed multiple times and strangled, in a grassy area near Prince George's County Hospital, along an access ramp to Route 202 from Baltimore-Washington Parkway.
Yeah, it's that Prince George area.
Oh.
Wow, okay.
Unlike the other victims, she was still wearing her shoes.
Okay.
And
someone tried to be a copycat, maybe?
No.
Or it was like a mugging gone wrong. Like that's also what it looks like.
He left a note with her.
Okay.
And I have it. Oh yeah, I'll come up later. God damn it! I thought I had it.
So this...
He left a note.
Okay.
There it is. You want to read the note?
This is tantamount to my insensitivity. I can't. To people, especially women. I will admit the others when you catch me, if you can. Freeway Phantom. I should have turned the TV, but you know.
Now, what do you notice about the way it's written, as far as like the capital and whatnot?
Well,
right? Like some of these letters are capitalized,
yeah,
and some of them are lowercase.
Yeah, like I get that, yeah, and the when.
Right. This is somebody trying to hide their handwriting. But it's still, there's some things that stay
looking
consistent.
At that,
right?
That's kind of creepy because I can look at that. I was like, wow, that looks like the parent to like your handwriting.
Kind of.
Yeah. That's really weird.
All right. Well, I wanted to show you. You see the A here in this little picture of me.
I need that because I can't see from there. Okay.
See how it's slanted and it's heavy on the left side?
Yeah.
That means they do it with a downstroke and then an upstroke.
Yeah.
Look out these A's.
All the A's are the exact same in this.
Yeah. It has the upstroke, that slight curve off to the right. Right?
The P.
It looks like that R. Yeah,
Yeah.
It looks exactly like that R.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
the
I wish
P.
I could, like, I probably could actually. You could lay this R right on top of that capital P.
And same if you just looking at how the D is written, like that's how, if you just look at it in lowercase, like in your brain, yeah, that makes sense. That's weird. The I is the same too.
Yeah, the I is the same as the L on my grandfather's handwriting.
Yeah.
The R.
Yeah.
The R. Let me see.
Just how the whole letter is written in that almost fine point.
Yeah, right. There's another R.
See, and like you look at your handwriting, compare it to that.
Oh, my handwriting's a mess.
Yeah, but you look at it to be like, oh,
similar.
It's the kid version. Here's the adult, here's the kid.
But yeah. So there's that. There's the note. The note is, I believe, it was something that when I saw it, it made, he was still alive when I saw this. Mm-hmm. It made my fucking jaw drop. Because, one, the man never wrote in lowercase letters. Never seen it. I watched him do so many crossword puzzles and read so many notes from him. The man didn't write in that.
Yeah.
That is somebody who is used to writing in capital letters, block letters, that's trying to make their handwriting look different, but kind of failing.
Yeah, just with the stroke and like the TH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these pictures that I'm talking about in the episode, you'll see them. There's some of them, if there's a child in it, don't worry about child exploitation. That child is me.
Yeah. I mean, it says 89.
Yeah. Look at that stupid. Look at that. That's Ernie with an airplane.
Wow.
God. But yeah. So let's go back to the Freeway Phantom. All right, now. The Phantom's quote-unquote final victim was claimed almost a year later, on September 5th, 1972. A 17-year-old Ballou High School senior, Diane Denise Williams, cooked dinner for her family, then visited her boyfriend's house. She was last seen boarding a bus at 11:20 p.m. A few hours later, her strangled body was discovered alongside I-295 just south of the district line. As with other victims, her shoes were missing, but no signs of sexual assault were found, although traces of semen, assumed to be from the boyfriend, were found. Alright, so at this point... Yes, Grumble, still skin? There were some suspects in these killings, right? There's this theory that serial killers don't kill outside of their race often, which led them to believe that these were actually black men. That were a black man or black men that were doing it. There's one group, a gang known as the Green Vega Rapists. There's but no, there's never been anything truly connecting to them, right? It's just these are people who were doing bad things at the time in the area who fit the profile because they're black.
Yeah. There was no actual police work.
I pose that KlanPa at this point in time was not truly comfortable with killing what he thought of his people. He had no specific obsession or anything yet, but he did want to kill, right? Yeah. I think he did some shit in Korea, and he brought it home with him.
I mean, yeah. And I mean, if you're in that mindset, then you're going over there anyways being like, well, these are not people, I guess. That would be that same. And then you realize, oh, this is just like doing slaughtering every day. Like working back on a farm.
Yeah, to him, it's not people, right? But, I mean, what the actual effect would be is it would desensitizing you to kill it, right? It'd make you better at it.
Yeah.
And when Grandpa, when he was like late 2010 or 2011, not even mid 2011, he got the cancer.
The cancer.
And he was in the hospital for a while. And when he came home, he was going to be coming home basically to die. And we had to clean up his room. And like Granny hadn't slept in the same room with him since, but maybe 3 times, my entire childhood. Apparently, she hadn't slept in the room with him since like mid-70s. She had been sleeping in her own room. It's kind of why when you were like, I think we could have our own rooms, I was like, there was a little bit of, Did the curse live on? Am I doomed? But no, he had, the only thing I inherited from the man were a few trinkets, a few little items, safety deposit box keys. Like, I know that these 2 are safety deposit boxes.
Yeah. I
think these 2 are as well. Or at least keys to some lockbox.
Yeah.
I inherited those. I inherited some pictures. And I inherited this huge collection of pornography. I mean, I have an entire, not here, but at Kira's house, I have an entire closet filled with pornography. Some of them are, I got magazines, I got every Playboy up until like 2008. Every single one. I got every Penthouse up until around 2010. I got Hustler. Oh my God, Hustler. I got erotic books. I got from like Penthouse forums and shit like that. Including a very, very strange one, incest. Like Penthouse forums incest stories. Like, yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah. I got a whole bunch of 8mm films. One called Barbra Streisand and Hardcore. You've seen that one. It's here in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. I got a whole bunch of shit like that. VHS is out the ass. The man had a porn collection on par with my Magic the Gathering collection.
Yeah.
Right?
Vast.
Vast collection. that was all I inherited from him. But anyway, when we were going through his he has like a kind of a walk-in closet that wasn't there when the house was built. Granny said that he added on to that closet over the years.
Okay.
And that it used to be, it had a big open sliding door, but it used to be just a door over all the way in one corner, and then the rest of it was like kind of like a false wall almost. Mm-hmm. But he eventually realized, whatever, and just undid it and made it a open closet with a sliding door. But in there, buried underneath mountains of shit, we found a lot of old ass fucking shoes, women's shoes. Yeah, like a lot, and they weren't like dress shoes,
just like sneakers.
So a couple of them were sneakers. A couple of them were like little like kids dress-ish shoes, like school shoes.
Yeah.
Like the shiny, the patent leather shit.
Like the almost like Mary Jane.
Kinda, yeah. A couple of Mary Janes. Yeah, there was a lot of women, and they weren't grannies. Because Granny was, 4 foot nothing, and I had like, little feet. Some of these were all different sizes. We didn't know what to do with them. We threw them away. Yeah. They've been long gone. But we didn't know anything about this at that time.
Yeah. Then
I start going through like the top shelf of this closet, pulling stuff off, and underneath, underneath like a box of like random hats, like trucker hats, which he had plenty of those. I found a little slip of paper, like a little sheet off of. He always carried. In fact, one of these pictures you can see it. There's a notepad in his shirt pocket.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he carried that notepad with him all the time, and he never threw them. Like he would never like throw them away until every sheet was used, and then he would just throw it, like tear it up and burn it, whatever. This one was a sheet from one of these pieces of paper, and it had, it said like Baltimore, age 15, choke. And then like some notation about shoes. And then there was another one. It said Virginia, had an age, and stab, choke, shoes. And there was like several names. And I'm like, what the fuck is this, right? It hadn't even occurred to me.
It didn't.
And I go to my grandmother, and I hand her to her, and I regret that to this day. I immediately regretted it. I said, Granny, what the fuck is this? And she grabbed it, looked at it, balled it up, put it in her pocket, and said, nothing you need to worry about. And I'm like, okay. So I immediately, this is like 2011. I started Googling like a motherfucker. Looking for like a time frame that fit. I initially started looking at his time because the reason he stopped working for the sign company is that him and my grandmother were going to go live in Texas to be near my mother. All right? So they go to Texas, and so when I first started looking, I started looking for unsolved Texas serial murders from, the time that I knew they were in Texas.
Jesus.
What do you know about the Texas killing fields?
No.
And you've seen pictures of my mother when she was younger, right?
Yeah.
Hold on. Did I not have it?
You have so many tabs.
Well, that's how I do things.
Like, this is how I live my life. Didn't we watch a documentary?
We might have.
I don't remember.
All right, the Texas killing fields is a title used to roughly denote the area surrounding the Interstate Highway 45 corridor southeast of Houston, where since the early 1970s, more than 30 bodies have been found. And specifically to a 25-acre patch in League City, Texas. You want to guess where KlanPa and my mom and Granny lived? Just outside of League City, Texas. during their time in and that was from like 1978 to 1982 or 3.
Okay.
Right? They lived there. But they were there a lot. Like they were traveling back and forth from Texas so much that he quit his job at the sign thing and got a job driving trucks out that way. Right? So he would be out there driving while he was making money to get a house and all that shit. And then he'd come back home. And eventually they all moved out there. But that went from like 73 to around 78 before Granny moved out there that he was working the Texas area. This area. All over around Houston and Dallas and yeah. The bodies along the corridor were mainly of girls or young women. Furthermore, many additional young girls have disappeared from this area who are still missing. Most of the victims' age were between 12 and 25 years. Some shared similar features, such as similar hairstyles.
Hi, Chunk.
There is a picture of only one of them that was in color. Yeah. All right. Fair skin, red hair.
Yeah.
And fair skin, red hair.
Yeah.
The rest of them are all black and white photos, but they both had fair skin and red hair. You know what color hair my mom had? My mom had bright red hair. Right?
Yeah.
She was around 12 or 13 when KlanPa would have first met her. And I believe KlanPa became obsessed with her. He certainly molested her. He began molesting her pretty much immediately. And they had sex for up until the time she was like 19 or 20. Mom would sometimes claim it was more, but, my mom couldn't really be believed.
Yeah.
This was actually confirmed. I didn't know anything about this until I was like 19. And I went to my aunt who knew my mom's family. I went to my dad, my other grandparents. I went to Granny, KlanPa's wife. I even looked up Uncle Randy and asked him.
Yeah.
They all confirmed for me independently that KlanPa not only was molesting the shit out of my mother, he molested all of the kids. And they'd always wondered if I had been molested. No. KlanPa never laid a finger on me that I recall. Not at all. Was he inappropriate? Yeah. Yeah, he was inappropriate. But he was never, like, molesty.
He was never handsy.
Yeah. He was kind of a nudist, and I accepted that. In fact, they lived on a nudist colony for a while when my mom was like 16. But yeah, there were murders in this area, bodies found in this area, Texas, starting back in the 70s.
Okay.
Around 1971. But right here. Kimberly Ray Pitchford, 16, last seen at Dobie High School in Houston, Texas. Her body was found by two teenage boys two days later in a ditch in Angleton, Texas, around noon on County 65 in Brazoria County, January 5th, 1973. He was in Texas then. She was wearing a blue dress, but her watch and shoes were missing. She had died of strangulation.
Okay.
This is Texas. Brooks Bracewell, 12, and Georgia Caroline Gear, 14, were both last seen at the Utotem convenience store of Interstate 45 on September 6, 1974. Georgia was seen in an orange outfit. Brooks was wearing plaid high-rise pants and a gold V-neck sweater.
That's a look.
Yeah, in 1976, some of her remains were found by police in Alvin, Texas. But due to neglect, were not identified as hers until a new detective took over the case in 81.
Wow.
The ditch where they were originally found was re-examined and more remains, as well as the fragments of a gold sweater and plaid pants were found. Susie Bowers disappeared May 21st, 1977, and was found 2 years later in Alta Loma, Texas. Her skull appeared to have gunshot holes, but so much time had passed. And it goes on. I don't think all of these are connected.
But it just happens.
But there are several more that didn't have shoes and that were strangled. That seems to have been this killer's trademark. I think that the Freeway Phantom moved to Texas during this time and lived in Texas and was just throwing bodies out along the same time everybody else was. Mm-hmm. Now, I do know that KlanPa moved back to North Carolina because he had got caught molesting my mom by one of her school friends in around 84, 85, right before my dad met my mom. When we came back, my mom met my dad, and I was born in 86, right?
Yeah.
So I think he pretty much settled down, right? Now he's continued driving trucks. He drove for ST Wooten, a few other companies. He was he was a lifelong truck driver. He would do over the road trips. Sometimes he'd be gone 2 or 3 months, which was cool because that's when me and Granny would stay up like the whole weekend watching horror movies and eating popcorn and shit.
You're like,
oh my God, movies! Yeah. I said he may have been he may have been doing some killings. I don't know. Well, that's the first murders I found was the Texas killing fields.
Yeah.
And then I asked Granny, when did Grandpa work for that sign company in D.C.? And she was like, that was around 70, 72. He stopped working there around 73. I'm like, all right. And so I looked that up, and that's how I found out about the Freeway Phantom killings. Well, Grandpa, before this, just before Grandpa comes home from the hospital.
With the cancer. I
corner Granny. Because at this point in time, I'm starting to think about all this shit, right? So for one thing, when I was a kid, I started to be kind of preteen, I started getting into serial killers. Charles Manson and the like, right?
Yeah.
Grandpa usually knew a lot about the subject, and he would always end it with, he would never condemn, he would always talk about some of he'd like, oh yeah, them weirdos out there in the desert, and ate a bunch of acid and then killed a bunch of movie stars. He actually knew more than that. He could actually hold intelligent conversations about it.
Yeah.
He never condemned it. He never said anything like, oh, this sick son of a bitch, or anything like that when talking about Ted Bundy. Only thing he would say is be like, what the hell do you want to know about all this stuff for? This is, people are going to think you're weird. That was the only thing he would ever say about it.
But he continued to tell you.
Yeah. He would tell me about these things, and he'd be like, people are going to think you're weird. But the thing is, that's what he thought about. What other people would see, how other people would react. As far as killing being wrong, hell no. Hell, he had a saying that I've picked up on sometimes, but I try to keep it to a minimum, is they should have had their head pinched off at birth. That's one I got from him. But when you think about it, the man was kind of a psychopath. He was like, he was cold in a warm way, or warm in a cold way, right? Like, I loved him, and I believed he loved me, and I really think he did. I think he kind of saw me as the son he never got to have. That, he was incapable of molesting, because apparently my mom and my dad, who later also confirmed, but they, had basically threatened to, ruin his life if he ever laid a finger on me. So there's that. But, eventually Grandpa was getting ready to come home from the hospital. And I cornered Granny, and, my baby mama was with me. And I asked her point blank, I said, Granny, tell me the fucking truth. I ain't gonna call no cops. It's too late, the man's dying. I said, tell me the truth. Was Grandpa a fucking serial killer? And she said, yeah. And walked the fuck back into her room. Now...
Jesus fucking Christ. This is so much.
Grandpa comes home, a little bit of time goes by. Me, my mom, and Kira are sitting in the kitchen with KlanPa. Granny is in the kitchen behind us, but she's not really part of the conversation. And me and Mom start talking and telling the story, like, hey, you were working in Virginia around the time of the serial killer. He was like, what serial killer? Like the one that was dumping the bodies up and down the street. He's like, oh yeah, up and down 295. Yeah, somebody's killing a bunch of nigglets up and down the road.
Jesus Christ.
And Grandpa's like, they ever catch him? And he's sitting there looking at me, like just like I'm looking at you now. Hands like this and everything. They ever catch him? I'm like, no, Grandpa. They got a nickname for him, though, Freeway Phantom. He looked at me, he's like, yeah, I remember that.
That's so weird.
And I asked him, and Mom both asked him at the same time, was that you? That was his only response. He would say no more on the matter. That was it. From a man who never had a sordid, he never lied to me. My whole life, this man never lied to me about anything. Even when I confronted him about molesting my mom, he was like, well, it wasn't quite like that. I was like, all right, well, that's all I fucking need to know, right?
Yeah.
So, the man never lied to me his whole life, or my whole life. He didn't say no. He didn't say yes, but he laughed, and he just kind of looked off and wouldn't talk about it no more. Didn't say nothing else. He died like a week or two later. And I've been, I think about it often, like how much did this man influence me, right? He clearly did. We have the same views on government. We hate it. We don't trust anything attached to a government or a bank. If it's worth $1, it ain't worth a fuck. He influenced me in a lot of ways. I've always wondered, I never saw that side of him, but it was always there, right? What if and there's no proof. I can't prove that he killed these women and girls.
This is just speculation.
It's speculation, but speculation with support.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't thrown away the shoes. Had I known the story beforehand, maybe we could be solving some cases, but those shoes are long gone. The note is long gone. I actually searched after my grandmother shoved it in her pocket for days after. Whenever she would go to bed, I would go outside to where the trash can was, and I would dig through the trash, looking for that fucking letter, looking for that piece of paper. I broke into her room when she went to her doctor's appointment. I searched that motherfucker high and low.
She got rid of it right quick.
It was gone. And I, to me, that was the smoking gun, right? That and the shoes.
Yeah.
But it was too late. And, she's still alive, but she ain't saying nothing. She was married to him at the time. He's long dead.
Yeah.
I've never been able to get more information out of her. Not a single bit. Hell, she don't even know who my mother's actual father was. It might have been this guy. It might have been him. I don't fucking know.
Jesus.
She always told me that my mother's father, like her and KlanPa had a fight.
Yeah.
And she went to Indiana and got drunk and hooked up with this 16-year-old Indian boy. Native American, Indian.
Yeah.
Not feather, not dot.
So racist.
Hey, I could say this because I thought...
You said Native American.
Yeah. And for most of my life, due to a bunch of lies, I thought I was Native American. Like almost a quarter by doing the math. Nope. There was no Native American, not one drop of Native American semen in my DNA. So
You're very Scottish.
I'm very Scottish and Norwegian.
Yeah.
And British and French, which was...
You're very white.
Which was the British and the French. That's where the Denton family, Charles KlanPa, came from. It's possible that she went there pregnant.
Yeah.
She stayed there long enough to have the baby, left the baby with her mother, and then came back home to Charles.
Yeah.
He was weird though, man. Like in the 70s, he was outside in his yard on a Sunday one day, and he was wearing like a bathing suit, no shirt, nothing like that. And Granny was out there in a bathing suit, and they're out there drinking beer in the front yard, doing like yard work. The neighborhood got all pissy about it. So the next Sunday, people driving by saw my grandpa and my grandma butt-ass naked, painting the eaves of the house bright purple. It remained purple for many years. He could often be seen late at night, drunk driving, butt naked on his motorcycle around at his funeral, where he received no military honors, even though he was a veteran. At his funeral, the preacher who had known my grandfather his whole life, right? The Denton family was known. KlanPa was especially known. There's legends about him. But the preacher said, I knew Charles personally. Well, I just hope in those last days. That was like, it made me bust out laughing because I knew in my head this preacher's thinking about seeing this man naked on his motorcycle at 3 a.m, drunk as a skunk. He's seeing this guy beating a man half to death over a grudge from 20 years before with a milk crate in front of the gas station just to go inside, sit down, and drink coffee. He's thinking of all these gangster-ass stories about my crazy-ass clan father, and he's just, no, there's nothing I can share here.
Y'all know it just as well as I do.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So that's the story of KlanPa, and a story of the Freeway Phantom, and a brief touching on the Texas killing fields, because there's still bodies being found out there, right?
Yeah.
But nobody's been killing people for 50 years.
Yeah, it just is, unfortunately.
It's a good spot.
Yeah.
And there, he was obsessed with CB radios. Like, from when he was trucking, I guess. He had a CB radio and a police scanner in his pickup truck, in the cars. Like, we'd be listening to music, and all of a sudden, we'd start hearing fucking police scanners and shit going off. Like, we'd go on road trips, and people say some weird shit over CB radio. Like, they'll tell you where a whorehouse is. Like, hey, guys, you're looking to get your dick sucked while you get your oil changed? Well, go on down here to exit 17. Go 3 miles to the left. Take a ride at the old red barn there. You're riding cross. I rode cross country with them once, going to Indiana to see my aunt and uncle out there. Rode with them and Granny, and we listened to that CB radio the whole way. I hated it, but now looking back, it makes a lot of sense. He knew, if somebody was coming for him. But yeah.
he knew that there weren't people that were going up and down that road.
Yeah, and people talk about, hey, a body's been found off of such and such. He probably heard that so many times, and he's like, since bodies are getting dumped around there, by this time his whole victim thing has changed. He's after white girls now with bright red hair. He was always, and my mom was always his favorite too, as far as the girls.
Yeah.
Like in every sense.
What do you mean? Like
even in the father-daughter sense, towards the end of his life, there was nothing my mom would ask for that Charles wouldn't give her. Partially because, of all the molestation, I'm sure, but also possibly because, she was his favorite.
Like, yeah. You're like, oh yes, I am the favorite child. Like, yeah. All right, I get it.
He used to have peepholes in the house. Like apparently when my mom and my dad were dating, they went up into the attic over there at KlanPa's and realized that he had like peepholes drilled into the bathroom and to all the different rooms of the house. So my dad filled them up with caulk, and when I went up there years, a decade and a half later, they were still full of caulk. He never went back up there. I think at a certain point, he just got tired of it. He was tired of dealing with it. But I do think he was, like I said, Granny said he was a serial killer. He all but said it. If it had been no, he'd have said no.
Yeah, but just in good...
But just to kind of chuckle, look at me, and then look off. He looked actually proud, to be honest.
That you, like, in that sense...
Because I told him, I said, look, man, you're dying. Because he always had a view about, dying. He was the one that taught me about death. Mm-hmm. And what it was. He wasn't shy about it. And I was like, look, man, you're fucking dying. You know that. I'm like, there's nothing they can do to you. You could tell me right now if it was you.
Yeah.
And there'd be nothing they could do. What are they going to do? By the time I call the police and they get here, you're going to be dead anyway. And
what's the point of?
I think he didn't want. I think he couldn't say it out loud. It was like when I was in the deepest parts of my active addiction.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell nobody really.
You couldn't bring yourself to.
I couldn't say the words out loud.
To reach for help.
And I think that's where he was. He knew there was nothing that was going to happen, but to say it out loud would make it real.
Yeah, and it's almost like the Freeway fandom murders were like the practice.
Yeah.
And in perfecting, and if whatever was like his signature and Texas
killing, the shoes missing and strangulation,
whatever part of those,
and red hair.
Yeah,
you put those together, and there's a pretty good Venn diagram. You know what I mean? There's a good chunk for a few years. I think he was killing them the whole time he was there in Texas. Mm-hmm. There's probably murders all over the fucking place that aren't linked to serial killings or something. Might be somewhere remote.
A one-off.
But that brings me to these pictures. This picture, not that picture. Oh, it might have been that picture. Oh. Ah. All right, This is one of the Polaroids, right? Two of these the Polaroids I saved from him, and it looks so much better on the screen there than it did on the actual Polaroid. But that is the same picture.
Okay.
Right? I put this picture into Google image search. Marble Falls, Texas. Texas crafts. This is Texas. Okay. And from what I can tell, looking at different pictures of
the killing field?
League City. These bluebells and shit, that's what these are. Grow heavily in there. And there's a picture I saw of this road I'm pretty sure you see these lights here?
Yeah.
There's a picture I saw some fucking where looking through all this of that road looking over this way. You know, and here's another picture of a field. Also from Texas. When you Google search it, it does the same thing. It brings it's back to Texas. Back to this part of Texas.
That's a very specific...
Yeah, landscape.
Yeah.
I tried dating it, but these old Polaroid photos don't actually fit with the dating scheme of the Polaroid photos now.
Yeah.
I have no way of dating it. Plus, the man held on to everything. When he quit smoking, he took his half pack of cigarettes, threw it up on the TV, and just didn't touch it anymore. 10 years later, when I was smoking, I smoked them. They never went anywhere. He kept them there like a reminder. He even told me, I was like, why don't you get rid of these? He's like, I like to keep them there as a reminder. Okay. Kind of like them shoes. Huh?
Yeah. God.
So, yeah, I'm going to put all this stuff up online in the notes with this episode. And, if anybody wants to reach out, whatever, reach out. You can reach me at stonerspointpod at gmail.com. Prove me wrong. I'd love to be wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think I am.
It's eerily...
There's too many coincidences, right? Too many.
What's that?
This was his.
What is it?
I have a few trinkets of his.
It looks like a Capricorn
He was a Capricorn.
necklace.
But not the necklace wearing Capricorn type. There's other things. There's a bracelet, a silver metal bracelet. I've worn it a few times. I never saw him wear it a day in his life. So yeah, I have some items. That might be of victims. I don't know. But yeah, that'll be that episode. What do you want to talk about, babe?
This chunk, how he's been so sweet and so lovey throughout this whole episode. Just giving me so many snuggles. Besides that, and go play some more Animal Crossing, I got nothing.
Yeah, it's not even time to make soup yet.
Nope, it's not soup o'clock.
It's never soup o'clock.
You know what we didn't get for the soup? We didn't get any, dippy bread.
We got everything bagels.
Yeah, but, a good crusty bread.
You want me to go get a good crusty bread?
Probably. Hello, Gojira.
All right, well, until next time, folks, when I come up with something else for us to talk about, we still got to talk about that Ugandan or Kenyan or whatever it was church.
So many things, yeah.
The Christian cult.
It's you're doing a lot of stuff for Stoner's Point.
Yeah. We just finished up Trump, and I still got to put that episode out. I put out the first one, but I didn't put out the second half of Trump, which is longer than the first half, folks. But
that's why it's just
me and Mike aren't putting out shit every week, but when we do, it's substantial.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm just having so many kitty loves right now. Oh my goodness.
Love your kitty. Well, until next time, folks. Fuck around and find out.